A father's last gift, a life-changing lesson for his children. "You won't always have me here to guide you," Ravi said, his voice firm yet warm. His children, Sandeep and Meera, stood before him in the dim light of his small workshop. On the table sat 2 plain wooden boxes. He slid one toward each of them. "What's in them, Papa?" Meera asked, curiosity flickering in her eyes. "That's for you to discover," Ravi replied. His hands rested briefly on each box, rough and worn from decades of labor. "When I'm gone, open these. They're my final gifts to you." The 2 siblings glanced at each other. Ravi rarely gave gifts, and these plain boxes didn't seem extraordinary, yet the weight of his words lingered. A week later, Ravi passed away. The house felt empty, stripped of its center. Eventually, Meera and Sandeep turned to the boxes, hoping to find some meaning, something to cling to in their loss. Meera opened hers first. Inside was a heavy lump of clay, shapeless, gray, and cold to the touch. She frowned, confused. "Clay?" she murmured, holding it up. "What am I supposed to do with this?" Sandeep tore open his box with impatience, only to find the same thing. He scoffed, his grief turning quickly to frustration. "This is ridiculous," Sandeep said, tossing the box aside. "He could have left us money, instructions, something useful. But no, he leaves us. This?" Meera said nothing, closing her box carefully. She didn't understand it either, but something about the way their father had spoken made her hesitant to dismiss the gift so quickly. Days passed, then weeks. Sandeep forgot about the clay entirely, letting it gather dust in a corner of his room. He was busy trying to patch his life together, borrowing money to cover debts, moving from one odd job to another. His days were frantic and unsteady, marked by stress and frustration. Meera, on the other hand, found herself drawn to her clay. At first, she poked at it idly, then began shaping it. Her fingers moved awkwardly, but her curiosity grew. One day, she decided to take it to a local potter for advice. "I don't know what to do with this," she admitted. The potter smiled. "It's clay. You can do whatever you want with it. It's up to you to decide." With guidance, Meera began crafting simple pieces. Her first bowl was misshapen, but it worked. Her second piece, a small vase, was better. Slowly, she honed her skills. The clay became a part of her routine, a way to create, to process her thoughts, and in some unspoken way, to feel closer to her father. Meanwhile, Sandeep's frustrations deepened. He struggled to keep his footing, blaming the world for his problems. He avoided the box and its strange gift, unwilling to even think about it. Years passed. Meera had turned her curiosity into a skill. She became an accomplished potter, her pieces known throughout the village. Customers admired not just her work, but the joy and patience she poured into each creation. One day, Sandeep, now burdened by debt and desperation, visited Meera's bustling studio. He stood surrounded by her beautiful creations, a mixture of awe and envy in his heart. "How did you manage to do all this?" he asked, his voice filled with disbelief. Meera wiped her hands clean of clay and looked at her brother. "Do you remember the box Father gave us?" He frowned, nodding. "It had clay in it, just like yours, but I didn't see the point." "That's the difference," Meera said gently. She reached for her original wooden box and opened it. Inside was a single vase, the first one she had ever made. It was rough and uneven, but still functional. "He didn't give us clay. He gave us potential." "Potential?" Sandeep repeated, confused. "He wanted us to create something out of what seemed useless," Meera explained. "To see that even the simplest things can become something meaningful if we're willing to work with them." Sandeep's stomach sank as realization set in. That evening, he dusted off his old box and opened it for the first time in years. The lump of clay inside had dried and cracked beyond use. It crumbled under his touch. Sandeep sat for a long time, staring at the brittle remains of his father's gift. The weight of the lesson was clear. Life is raw material. It's up to you to shape it. Ignore it, and the opportunity slips through your fingers. The siblings' father had left them more than a gift. He had left them a choice.